Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Yes, it's Jason Cosmic, RSSP Authority. And you know what RSSP stands for, right? How about Real Secret Space Program? Way up there and way out there deep in space. Oh, and NASA, of course. Never a straight answer with those guys. We know that, right? A lot of egregious lies from them. A lot of people say never a straight answer. That's not my original term. But look at this photo, my friends. I love talking about this photograph because I think it's so vital, right? Infrared photograph of one of the gigantic cylindrical objects taken by the Hubble all the way in the rings of Saturn. That's right, and that's staffed by U.S. naval officers, baby. We can know that. As I've said before, and I'll tell you guys again, there's several reasons why we know that. I'll tell you one reason today. I've talked about in other videos. Billy Carson, who owns his own space company called First Class Space Agency, therefore he's a hardcore space insider, right? Not just some whistleblower. He tells you they have cigar-shaped craft deep in space that are supermassive objects the size of small cities, and he says they are staffed by U.S. naval officers. So you can take that to the bank, my friends. That is the truth. And the U.S. are largely in control of the UFO file. These massive craft come out at nighttime out of the oceans, and they've been seen worldwide, except not the ones this big. This has been measured at least 2 miles. I just love talking about that because I think it's so important as part of revealing the truth of the real secret space program, my friends. And quick reminder, if you guys enjoy my visceral engagement with you, if you think I have a lot of value to share and give, if you appreciate my intellectual honesty, and hopefully I'm igniting your fertile imagination and intellectual curiosity, if you guys appreciate all that, and hopefully you like my titillating and tantalizing revelations on the real secret space program, then please don't hesitate to give me a thumbs up. Hopefully you'll subscribe. Feel free to share my videos and leave a thought if you want. I'll read them, okay? I know with your guys' help we could take this channel to the next level, because I'm telling you, I believe the real secret space program, the RSSP, is the most important, fascinating subject of our time. And it's a kaleidoscope of different topics involved: the missing trillions, being lied and hoodwinked and played for 60 plus years from these covert military civilizations, the deep state, CIA, etc. We've been lied to 60 plus years. Enough is enough, my friends. And we can get a lot of truth. And a quick shout out to my buddy Joe from the Carolinas. He's doing some great work on the military activities going on in space. He had a video, I think, last week on, I described, he was saying in so many words, the tensions between China and the Americans. I thought it was really well done. If you notice, guys, too, when the Russians released their GPS satellites a few years back, that's when tensions between Russia and China, or Russia and America started, right? Sorry, and Joe's video was on the Chinese with the Americans, sort of those tensions. But my friends, today, I want to talk about a guy named Steven Greer. That's right, we're going to do part 2 on Steven Greer. By the way, if you like a channel, don't subscribe before 3 minutes. Otherwise, they consider you a spam ugly robot, apparently. Okay? So wait 3 minutes. Steven Greer. This will be part 2 because I believe Steven Greer is a CIA puppet. He's deeply involved in a U.S. strategic PhyOp. And here's the marketing. I describe this as the disclosure project, as this marketing merchandise scam, right? Absolutely. Much like the TTSA was with the burned out rock star Tom DeLonge and Luis Elizondo, the counterintelligence officer. I mean, come on, that was a merchandise marketing scheme as well. And the question is, why are the governments putting these ridiculous, I describe it as a sagitized, sanitized, soft disclosure, right? It's pathetic the way the governments want to roll out reality to the public, my friends, because we deserve better than that. And I say this because what's Steven Greer all about, right? He's all about pushing ET, that there's all these ET civilizations and they're driving around, they're UFOs is part of the trillions of dollars of hardware where you never need to subscribe that part of the trillions of dollars of hardware are ET. It's all military UFOs, my friends. That's the truth of the matter. And that's still fascinating that we made the breakthroughs, okay? I will never vacillate from my conviction that it's all military UFOs and always has been, my friends. Okay, and it's trans-international, like I said. Not just Americans with amazing UFOs and USOs, Russia and China as well. Although, I don't know, I don't think they've got cigar-shaped craft this big like the U.S. naval officers. And as I told you guys before, real quick, NASA is just a cover for the NRO and the Air Force space programs, right? And the NRO and the Air Force, they're a cover for a more highly classified covert space program, and that is by the Navy, my friends. The Navy is spearheading largely under the chain of the military branch, the huge, again, USOs coming out of the oceans. And they even, you won't hear Steven Greer talking about this, my friends. Why isn't he? If you're interested in real noble disclosure, why wouldn't you be talking about the amazing black triangles, the TR-3B, that the Navy apparently are hiding on their submarines? Of course, this is going to go underneath the oceans, right? I mean, truly remarkable. And yet the Air Force also is partly in charge of the triangles, but it's more the Navy, my friends, that, again, is in command and control here. And, you know, you never hear Steven Greer talking about all the vector triangle symbols. Here's for the Mir space station. I believe they're delivering massive military assets. Remember, my friends, a patch, a military patch, it's so significant. You can Google all the different stealth patches, but the ones you won't see for some reason is those triangles. But I've connected it, my friends, and only one other researcher that I know of connected that sort of. And even Michael Schratt, my buddy, I'm going to have a beer with him because he never mentioned about, he did a great job on the stealth patches, but he never mentioned the triangles as part of stealth patches. Although he talks about the TR-3B and the massive boomerang-shaped triangles. But I found out, here's another example. I mean, again, if you're interested in disclosure, why isn't Greer really delving into the black budget technology? I mean, he mentions UFOs, but he doesn't tell you what's going on in space. He doesn't cover the military activities like my buddy Joe from the Carolinas does, and myself, and with the black budget technology, this amazing, exotic, revolutionary non-plutonium physics. Here's Trump's Space Force, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. They put it right in front of your face, my friends, on their merchandise and everything, okay? I just get so pumped up because it's all there for us to disseminate, my friends, okay? This comes out of the most secret aerospace program, the Aurora Project, the Black Triangles, right? The TR-3B. I mean, again, Greer doesn't address this. Why not? Because he's a CIA asset, my friends. He's just a puppet. He's there for perception management. We'll get into that more. So who is Steven Greer? Well, first of all, he's supposed to be this bumbling country doctor, right, who just happened to have an uncle that worked at none other than Northrop Grumman for the lunar modular that he loves to brag about. He doesn't tell you thousands of people worked on the lunar modular. I guess it's cool still to have an uncle that worked on it, but I mean, and he doesn't tell you, of course, the lunar modular and that Saturn V, because the lunar modular, as Steven Greer likes to brag, it helped take Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Edgar Mitchell, of course, to the moon, landed them on the moon. But all that was just a window dressing for what they really had. And Billy Carson tells you the same things, my friends. They already had all kinds of UFOs seen by witnesses worldwide, video and picture evidence going on in the 1960s and in the 1950s. I tried to demonstrate in my last video for you guys, for example, right, that I tried to verificate that anti-gravity, the historical gravity research that was going on in the 1950s, the Epic Human Project in researching, testing gravity, anti-gravity, and that was the Americans with the help of the paperclip Nazi scientists. That's a poor part of history, okay? Greer addresses that briefly. He'll tell you that the Americans worked on this mega, gravity research in the 1950s, but the guy spins it for ET, man. He says that we reverse engineered, like retro parts, in other words, from Roswell, as many other ufologists unfortunately do, because it sells you a lot more books. I think that's the reason why a lot of ufologists do that. And they make that mistake, my friends. Let's not be sellouts. We've got to be advocates for the truth so we can get a step closer to getting our power and sovereignty back, as I always say, my friends, right? Absolutely. Now, let me just turn on a light for one moment, my friends. Excuse me. We're going to keep talking here. Don't worry. I hope that's just a little bit better, at least, for lighting. Okay? And don't worry. I'll be working with my professional photographer, God willing, in about 4 months. I'm going to take this channel to a whole new level with your guys' help. Okay? So, again, Greer, you know, he's a CIA puppet. He is there for perception management. And, oh, by the way, so as part of the narrative of who Steven Greer, what he's doing, right, and who he is, he's this bumbling country doctor, and just out of the goodness of his heart, he wants to get people as citizens together to make a diplomatic effort, right, so we can end the hegemony of covert programs on the issue. Come on, my friends, reason, logic, common sense. Do you really buy into a country boy doctor is just going to do this on his own, basically, right? I mean, and he contradicted himself. I caught Greer, of course, in so many egregious lies, and other people have too, right? His ridiculous, outrageous proclamation and pronouncements, especially when it concerns ET. I mean, Greer's done good jobs in other aspects with the intelligence community, the secrecy, how it works in certain ways. I give him credit there, but then he spins it for all the lies of ET, and that's the CIA, my friends. That's the PhyOp, unfortunately. That's the way they want to dole out, you know, reality to the public and the governments and leadership. It's really, really unfortunate. And because we can handle the truth, my friends. Again, we've been lied to 60 plus years. The military, brilliant American scientists, with the help of paperclip Nazi scientists, beginning those 1950s in particular, they made the gravity breakthroughs. And of course, we had UFO flying programs in 1947 as well, and crashes and testing going on. There's lots of UFOs in 47. But that gravity research, that really got spearheaded with the Americans when they brought those paperclip Nazi scientists. That's when technological progress, I always say, really got ramped up, right? And we created radical, gnarly UFO technology. But it's all military UFOs, my friends. There's no ET crashes at Roswell. That's where all the paperclip Nazi scientists were brought into, okay? So let's use discernment, you know? And so Greer, my friends, again, this guy is involved in a U.S. diplomatic strategic PSYOP. And he lied when he said that it was his efforts, because when he was on Joe Rogan, Rogan asked him a great question. You know, Rogan's got the biggest YouTube platform out there, right? Joe Rogan said, well, who picked you? How did you he said in so many words, how did you get involved with this? Who chose you? And Greer, he admitted he was doing one of his C5 initiatives again on the beach, where I guess he charges groups of people, right? I'm sure that it's not free. And he gets groups of people and they all shoot lasers in the sky. And Greer claims that him and the other people are vectoring in ET craft. They can vector in ET. All these different civilizations, you know, riding around in their UFOs. And he's convinced thousands of people with his powers of persuasion, as he likes to think, right? To influence and lie to people. We'll get into the lies and this persuasion and this PSYOP that he's involved in a second, my friends. So that's what's going on. And in Joe Rogan, so he said that, I guess he was vectoring in these ET craft, and then he says, well, the Air Force, they chose me. And then, you know, the next thing, of course, he's debriefing the CIA director under Clinton. He always loves to brag about that, right? He never talks about the skeletons, of course, in the CIA's closet. Even Kevin Shipp, former CIA guy, great guy, Kevin Shipp, he tells you they got enough skeletons in the closet, you'd have to fumigate the hallways in Washington. But this is not a complete slam on the CIA. I mean, I always qualify, there's lots of good people in the intel agencies, even in the CIA, I think, that are caught in the systems. But we know they're largely out of control, unconstrained. Dark journalist even tells you in so many words, too. He's done a great job. We need a whole new awareness campaign over the U.S. intel agencies. And other countries have their own as well, my friends, right? So, and this is what this is, my friends. Come on. They're lying to you when it comes to ET. I mean, and they just do it so nonchalantly, right? And with such conviction, Steven Greer with his persuasion and lies, it's like, it's nothing for him. He keeps lying that they're here. I mean, he says the 8,000 trace cases are all ET. Are you kidding me? He was saying this because it all came out in the Disclosure Project, right? The 8,000 trace cases. And I told you in the other video in part 1, that's all military UFOs, man. The anti-gravity, amazing electromagnetic propulsion. They land on the ground and they leave radiation. It's got nothing to do with aliens or extraterrestrials from another civilization. And I told you guys in the other video, my friends, the other outrageous lies. He goes on the likes of Jesse Ventura in the multimedia, mainstream media, and he tries to convince thousands of people. He tells on Jesse Ventura, claiming that when submarines, tracking, he describes UFOs. He used the wrong term. It's actually USOs, underneath the oceans, unsubmergible objects, right? It stands for. But anyway, he said the submarines are chasing extraterrestrial craft. No, they're not. I just told you guys, we can know the Navy has major fleets of USOs. Okay? Again, the Navy's all about building a fleet-to-fleet, an organization of craft, your aircraft carriers, submarines, and in this case, USOs. The Navy's always been in charge. That's another reason why we can know this, my friends. Okay? So, I mean, it's just crazy. And you guys are probably wondering, those that may not have watched my part 1, what is a PhyOp? Why do you keep saying he's involved in this diplomatic strategic PhyOp? Well, I think first, guys, let's understand what a PhyOp is, right? Psychological warfare, PsyWar, or the back aspects of modern day psychological operations. It has many terms or names. You got, I think it's called MISU, you got PsyOps, of course, political warfare that I'm sure a lot of you have heard, and propaganda. Another term is hearts and minds. Okay, so PsyOps is derived to denote any activity that is primarily practiced by psychological methods with the aim of elucidating or evoking a planned psychological or emotional response in people. Okay, and it is with the goal of targeting a specific audience's value systems, belief systems. There's various methods involved in influencing, a targeted audience systems, belief systems, value systems, using persuasion, I would say, to affect emotions, motives, behavior. Sometimes they induce or assert, confessions, or to influence behaviors and attitudes that are favorable to the objectors, or to the originator's objectives, okay? And this can be used in conjunction with false flags, with black op operations. And Greer tells you there's a false flag coming. We know that the elements of the West, I would believe a lot of it's Nazis and parts of Americans, these shadow groups, the covert military civilizations, there is a plan with some of them to create this false flag. We know from Wernher von Braun, and Greer's talked about it. But then Greer spins it. This is why we got to be careful with the EC5 initiatives, the lie from Greer, my friends, and the CIA, I believe, because he's trying to convince you that, yes, there's going to be a false flag and we got to be ready for it, but that some are going to be peaceful ET and that we need to make contact with extraterrestrials. Well, obviously, reason, logic, common sense, that plays right into the military's handbook. Whoever wants to create the false flag, because what better way if you could confuse people to lay out some sort of plan, diabolical plan, where people are going to think some are ET and some are military and we need to be protected or something? It's all to try to create a one world government, a centralized government. Wernher von Braun was basically telling you as much for 4 years before he died, right, on his deathbed. So keep that in mind, my friends. These EC5 initiatives, and he's trying to convince government officials. He tells you, right? He's bragging, basically. He's going to other countries now, getting government officials involved in EC5 conventions, initiatives. I mean, it's all part of the CIA U.S. diplomatic PsyOp, okay? Now, let's finish off PsyOp again, because another way of saying it is it's to convey selected information and indicators to a targeted audience to affect emotions, motives, objective reasoning, okay? And ultimately the behavior of governments, groups, individuals, and organizations, okay? And a U.S. a U.S. psychological operations, for example, that's to induce or reinforce behavior that is favorable to the originators or that is favorable to the U.S., okay? And that's what Steven Greer is involved here, my friends. Absolutely. And it's U.S. psychological operations is an important part of the informational, military, and economic activities, made available to the U.S., okay? And it can be used, PsyOps can be used both in peacetime and conflict, right? There's three main types. There is strategic, tactical, and operational. And like I said, I believe he's involved in a strategic diplomatic PsyOp, okay? And a strategic PsyOp, involves informational activities conducted outside the military arena, but they often use DoD assets, right? Because Greer's obviously operating largely outside the military arena. Again, he's working for the U.S. government, I believe, in Washington there, my friends. Elements of the CIA, most likely. Really no doubt about it. So, this guy, my friends, the outrageous ET stories, proclamations from this guy spouting off about extraterrestrial civilizations here, you can know it's an outrageous lie, my friends. And there's a reason he's doing it. And the main reason? Well, it's because the governments and the leadership, my friends, they're having difficulty explaining away the cover-up, right? They know they've lied to us for 60 plus years, and the covert military civilizations. See, when I say Greer's used for perception management, this is what I mean, my friends. He's trying to give the governments plausible deniability. He admits in so many words, he knows the government's lost all control of the military technology. He knows it's buried within the private corporations, military industrial complex. It's all privately managed and controlled by these private corporations. But he doesn't tell you the governments are still financing that military technology, He knows that trillions of dollars have been stolen out of U.S. taxpayers and an exorbitant amount of resources, okay? So that's why he's being hired, I think, my friends. Because as soon as the government tries to explain away the cover-up, us being hoodwinked and lied to for 60 plus years, the trillions and trillions of dollars, again, stolen out of the U.S. taxpayers, the covert economic crime cash flows that have been used, of course, illegally moving all this technology, to illegal operations, then transferring it over to the private corporations. When they try to explain away all that, my friends, and being honest and try to be, I wish they would be courageous, but the current leadership of government, my friends, they know that it's going to force a look at their entire authenticity and credibility, right? It's going to be looked at. And the credibility of most of the current leadership and government will be destroyed. No question. And that's why we have to compel our governments to be courageous and stop throwing out the ET lies, particularly, again, elements of the CIA, right? And I wish, there's so much derision in this topic, my friends, even with the real secret space program, UFOs, because I think a lot of ufologists, 95% at least, they sell themselves out with ET. Even you got Richard Dolan, the famous Richard Dolan, he subscribes that we reverse engineered ET, retro parts, in other words, and some could be ET, and now he calls them the others. It's just, we'll do a video on Richard Dolan. He does some other good work, but I think that doesn't help us get our power and sovereignty at all, my friends. I think Dolan knows it's all military UFOs. Come on. He's a historian. And Dolan hardly ever talks about the real Nazi technology going on before the end of World War II. And the work with the U.S. scientists, with those paperclip Nazi scientists. Dolan doesn't talk about that as far as I know. Come on. So, anyway, but this is supposed to be on Steven Greer, my friends. But nobody pushes and sells himself out more, I don't think, than Steven Greer. Come on. And this whole disclosure project, once again, my friends, it's a CIA marketing merchandise scheme. You can know that. It's so obvious. You just got to look at it. It took me a long time to figure all this out, my friends, collecting the data points. But when you look at it deeply from the point of view of if you're the government and the leadership and what has been going on from, again, this affects us Canadians and U.S. and all the U.S. taxpayers, of course, too. And it affects people worldwide, my friends. When you've got trillions and trillions of dollars stolen, and Russia and China, do it within their governments as well. But we know the U.S.'s black budget is significant, my friends. You know, again, Russia spends in 2 weeks what the Russia spends in a year what the U.S. government spends in 2 weeks, the military there on defense. I mean, truly remarkable, right? So, you know, we just got to understand that it's the government. They're having troubles explaining away the cover-up. The lies, they're coming to a tipping point too, my friends. They don't even make sense, right? And if we can get more truth on Greer and this whole disclosure project, and the fact that this is the way they want to choose to try to roll out reality to the public, well then, my friends, we're ahead of the game. We can make that cultural shift and drive and a societal shift, ultimately get our right to this divine anti-gravity. But we've got to get the truth of what's going on. We have to understand, and I finally do, my friends, looking at it from the credibility and authenticity point of view of the government, and not being able to explain away the cover-up, or not being courageous enough, apparently, you know. Otherwise, if they were courageous, you wouldn't throw out this ET lie that we reverse engineered ET craft, or, you know, put out, he's just a shill. They put out shills like Steven Greer. They need somebody like him to refer to, my friends, right? And much like an Elon Musk as well. We'll get into Elon Musk another day. Elon Musk, you know, using rockets, all these space companies like I've talked about in other videos. I mean, come on. SpaceX, right? Where's Elon Musk's rocket? Just like Steven Greer, he's largely a shill, I believe, for the U.S. intel agencies, my friends, and the military, covert military civilizations. Rockets is obsolete dinosaur technology. Hopefully I proved that in the last video for you guys. This is how the governments disorient the public, my friends. They try to. Releasing all these payloads of people with rockets. That is 1943 Nazi technology, man. Right? But it's Elon Musk's sophisticated, heavy Falcon 5 rocket. Give me a break. He knows. Steven Greer and the likes of Elon Musk and Branson and Robert Bigelow that are all using rockets for the private space companies, my friends, even though in some ways it's fascinating, of course. We need space companies, but they're shills for the U.S. intel agencies largely. They know. They all know, my friends. They're in the know. They know that this is trans-international, that literally the covert military civilizations are literally living through an anti-gravity space travel revolution, as I described. Okay? And we're being lied to. Rockets. Even Billy Carson tells you, my friends, for example, it's almost like a scientific project, right? And he says it's dumb. And Michael Schratt agrees. I mean, he says it's dinosaur obsolete technology as well. You just got to look at the gravity research and the breakthroughs that we made in the 1950s, my friends. Absolutely no question. I showed you guys through those newspaper articles. Okay? So thank you very much for listening, my friends. I hope I was clear and concise for the most part in this video. And we may do even part 3 on Steven Greer. You never know. And we'll definitely get into the black budget technology that Steven Greer, you know, there's so much that Greer does not talk about. You notice that, by the way? He doesn't talk about NASA hardly at all. He doesn't talk about the massive covert production going on and manufacturing on the moon and Mars, off planet. No question about it. It's all there on video evidence, my friends. Billy Carson tells you, too. Him and his researchers have discovered over 5,300 anomalies just on the one side of Mars. This is where it's all happening, my friends. Steven Greer doesn't tell you and reveal truth on that, and he should. If you have real noble intentions with disclosure, you'd be talking about that, and you'd be talking about more of the black budget technology, the TR-3B, the black triangles, the cigar-shaped craft, operated by U.S. naval officers all the way in the rings of Saturn, man. This is a famous photograph, and there's more of these photographs, my friends. That came out in 1986, okay, from the Hubble telescope. Come on. You know, he doesn't talk about that. And by the way, there was a book called, I think it's called Building the Rings of Saturn. And it was a guy named Thomas Berggren. He worked at none other than Lockheed Martin on the classified projects. He came out with a book with showing you these photos, made it even more famous. But here's the disinformation in this field, my friends, which is off the charts. He said it was extraterrestrial, when we can know. God rest his soul, he died at 94 years old, but we can know that's staffed, like I said, by U.S. naval officers. And Steven Greer should be talking about it and researching that. It's just, he's a joke. He's a bad joke. Steven Greer, man, if you just stop the ET push, I'd be on your side, Greer. You could have real real and noble disclosure for us and get our right to this anti-gravity, my friends. You know, but Steven, he wants to buy in, I guess, to the CIA narrative. He's hired as a CIA asset, I believe, to unfortunately throw out this disinformation, egregious lies. Thank you guys. I hope you'll give me a thumbs up. I hope you'll subscribe new people to my videos and share my videos. Like I said, we could take this channel, like I said, to a whole new level. I'll be working with my professional photographer soon, I hope. Thanks, guys, for listening. More videos to come. Take care. Live strong.